What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Derek. We are working on our MV F3XX replica right behind me. It's been a couple of weekends since my last track day down at Podium Club in Casa Grande, and it's just time to do some general maintenance ahead of our next track day, which is in about 3 weeks' time. So we got to pop off the calipers because they don't have dust seals. So we got to clean up the calipers, and we've had now 3 track days on this current setup, so we have to remove the fairings, got to remove the tank, and inspect the airbox and the air filter to make sure that's okay and clean it out if there's any debris and so forth in there. So just general basic maintenance stuff ahead of our next track day to make sure that everything is okay. If you remember at my last track day, I thought I had some weeping from our oil fill cap. So I have some, I don't know if you could see that. I have some weeping right here from the oil fill cap. I noticed that at my last one as well. We'll have to keep an eye on that. There is an O-ring in there, which is fine, or maybe it's not fine, but there is an O-ring in there, but it doesn't seem to be sealing as well as it should. So after I got the bike back here, MV parts they can be challenging to get a hold of, right? They can take a little bit of time. So I knew that my next track day was coming up in January, so I wanted to jump on that right away. So I inspected the oil fill cap and the O-ring associated with that. This guy right here. And I found that that O-ring and the oil fill cap, just fine. There's no problem with it at all. Regardless, I also replaced the oil fill cap with a nice CNC Racing anodized red one, which is on the bike. We'll take a look at that in just a second. So if the oil's not weeping from the oil fill cap, what else could it be? So I took our RNG protective clutch cover off, this guy here. So there was oil all in here, just sort of splattered around. Obviously not pooling because this sits vertical, but there was oil behind here. So how does oil get behind this cover? So obviously I removed the clutch case cover and I inspected the gasket. And here's our clutch cover gasket, and the gasket is fine. There was no breaks, there's no defects, there was no area where oil was seeping past the clutch cover gasket. So the gasket is okay as well. So that led me to inspecting the clutch case cover itself. So why the oil in here? So I did break out my nice iPhone and put on the magnifier, and I was able to identify cracks both on the inside and the outside of this cover. And to prove that, I put some oil in the cover here, and I let it sit for a little while. What do you think I'm going to notice if I lift this cover up and inspect the opposite side? I think you're already going to know what's happening because you could see that there's oil there. So I'm going to flip this over and look at that. Oil coming through. So I don't know if you can see this on camera, but right across here, let me see if I can. Right across here, there is a crack, and then vertical on the M right here, there is also a hairline fracture. And if I flip this over and I pull this out, pull out the pin here, you can best see it if I rotate it around like that. There is also a crack right in here in a semicircle, half moon shaped right down in there. I don't know if you can see it. So what is my plan here? So obviously I'm going to replace the cover. I already have one on order, and hopefully by the end of this video, I will already have it and we'll be able to install it in this video. So it's on its way. But like I said, my track day is just over 2 weeks away, just shy of 3 weeks. And I'm crossing my fingers. I'm hoping it'll be here, but there's no guarantee. If we don't get it installed in this video, then you know that it didn't show up. So if it doesn't show up, what am I going to do? So I have a couple options. That's why I have a backup bike. So I will most likely ride that. That is my 2011 BMW S1000RR. So I will most likely ride that bike at my next track day if, in fact, my MV clutch cover is not here. That's a whole lot of yapping here right now. So let's get some fairings off. Let's pop off these calipers, start getting them cleaned. Then we'll remove the tank, inspect the airbox, clean that out, make sure it's okay, and then put this puppy back together. And hopefully by the end of all of that, my clutch cover will be here and we'll be reinstalling that as well. So let's get to it. All right, guys, so let's get to cleaning some calipers. So over here I have some brake clean. I have my non-silicone based WD-40, some soft bristle toothbrushes, and a rag to wipe everything down, and of course my shallow oil pan. I'm gonna set that one aside. And this is really all we do. Trying to really work the sides of each piston. And finally this one. So these dry fit quick disconnectors, while super expensive, are very convenient. So this caliper is still bled, it's still holding pressure, so when we go to put it back on the bike we won't need to re-bleed this caliper. So that's really nice. Makes it easy to swap calipers or clean if you're doing some type of enduro racing and things like that, or if you have calipers like this that just require lots of maintenance, you can take them off the bike, put them back on the bike, and not have to worry about going through that whole bleeding process. So that one's okay. So now I'm just going to wipe all of this stuff down. All right, one down. Let's do the other one. All right, second one all done. Let's throw them back on the bike. Okay, so I'm not going to do the final torque and tightening down in safety wire right now until we get the other one on it. And then we'll squeeze the brake lever to center the calipers because these are floating right now. There's no alignment dowels. So we'll squeeze the calipers, or we'll squeeze the brake levers, have the calipers squeeze and center themselves on the rotors, and then we can tighten them up while holding it down. That way we make sure that the calipers and the pads are centered on the rotors and everything is good. So we'll do the other side now and then we'll go back and we'll tighten everything up. It's the same process. I won't need to show you. So we'll cut the camera right here and then we'll come back once we're ready to tighten everything up. Okay, so we are ready to center the calipers on the rotors. In order to do that, I need to lower the table a little bit. So all right, so now all we're going to do, these bolts are less than hand tight. They're just on there, so the caliper can still float back and forth on the mounting. What we're going to do is give the wheel a spin, I'm going to grab the brake lever. I'm going to squeeze it. Both calipers are going to squeeze, center themselves on the rotor, and stop the wheel. We'll do that a couple of times. And then with the brake lever still held in place, everything squeezed tight. Then we're going to snug these bolts on both calipers, snugged up. And then once they're snug, we'll go and we'll torque them down to spec, which is about 18.5 foot-pounds. So that's what we're going to do. All right, so now I'm holding the brake lever. So what I'm going to do is reach around here. It's helpful if you got two people, but if you're by yourself, hopefully you're not a small person, you got long arms. And we'll snug them up. Not overly tight, because like I said, we'll come back and we'll torque them to specs. And then I'm still holding the brake lever. I'm not going to let it go. I'm going to go on the other side. You're not going to be able to see me. But I'm going to go to the other side and tighten up the other calipers as well while still holding the brake lever. Okay, with that done, I can now break out my torque wrench and we can torque these down to 18.5 foot-pounds, and then we'll safety wire them back up. Then we'll tackle the tank. Sorry, I have this monstrous torque wrench, but it's the only one that I can get accurate. So as you can see, we are set to 18.5 foot-pounds. There you go. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. All right, with the calipers done, now we can remove these fairings. We can tackle the tank so that we can get to the airbox. So let's start removing some fairings. All right, guys, with the fairings removed and all of the tank hardware removed, the tank is ready to come out. I've already disconnected the fuel lines, disconnected the upper front bolts here, removed everything back here. So only thing left to do is lift it up, disconnect the electrical connector under it, and set it aside. All right, so now that we have access to our airbox, we can remove the screws that go all the way around the airbox and open this up like a clamshell. So let's get going on that. All right, guys, so here's the inside of our airbox on our F3XX Replica. You can see after 2 track days, this is super clean for us. My BMW tends to be super dirty, but this is only 2 track days, and you notice that there's no dust or residual anything around here. The back side of the air filter is good. The front side, you could see there's some bits of debris. We'll blow those out. But overall, the airbox looks really, really good. So virtually nothing to do here. We'll just tap out those bits of larger debris, put everything back, seal it all up, call it good. With the airbox all cleaned and everything buttoned back up, the only thing we have left to do now is put the fuel tank back on the bike. There we go. And you want to engage that until you hear that snap. This is under a decent amount of pressure, so if you don't hear that snap, if you go ride, eventually the pressure will push that off and you'll end up with a fuel leak. And maybe you'll notice it before you crash, but a lot of times most people don't. Or everything is super hot, it catches fire, and that's even worse. So anyway, All right, guys, so the tank is all reinstalled. Our air filter and our air cleaner box all set and cleaned up. Checks out all good. Calipers are all cleaned, reinstalled, put back on, ready to go. Off camera, before we started, I did clean up some chain lube in this area. So right before my last track day, I did lube up the chain. I thought I cleaned it all off pretty good, but apparently I didn't, because I had fling all over the place here and on the rear shock. So I went ahead and cleaned that up off camera, cleaned the wheels up off camera. The only thing left to do is to give it a bath and to reinstall the new clutch cover when it gets here. So I'm going to stop and pause for right now, and hopefully in a few days I'll be back and we'll be installing that new clutch cover. Either way, I will talk to you guys in just a second. Okay guys, as you can tell, it is a couple of days later, and the clutch cover that I ordered originally is not going to be here by my track day. There's a long story there and I won't bother you with that, but the short version is I had to cancel that order and place a new order with a different vendor. So now it's coming from Italy, and there's a 90% chance that it will not be here by my next track day. So all I did is I went and I threw the stock damaged clutch cover along with its protective cover back on the bike so it doesn't sit open. And we will plan to ride the BMW at my next track day in January at Arizona Motorsports Park. So with that being said, that is a wrap for this video. Hopefully you found it informative and enjoyable. If so, please click the like button, give it a thumbs up. It really helps me. Before we do our normal end of video stuff, please be sure to tune in to my next video, particularly if you are an i2M Chrome user, owner, so forth. We're going to talk about adding track to your Chrome display while you're at the track. I am Derek. This is your Superbike Life. Like, comment, subscribe, or smash it and do all those great things if you're into that kind of thing. Until next time, guys, take care.